All right, good morning once again, and thank you for starting your day with us right here on Western Spring Television. The program is Morning Spring, where we bring you insightful newspaper analysis, engaging interviews, and of course, what's trending on social media. My name is Emmanuel Ujadigele. Delighted to have you join us on this journey this morning. I'm not alone in the studio as usual, and I have with me Femi.
Well, Femi Olanikweko is my name. So good to have you. Glad to have you this morning. It's Morning Spring, like I pray for you always. I pray that you have the springs to achieve all you want to achieve this very day and forever. Welcome to Western Spring Television. And I'm here, like Emmanuel said, I will give you what's trending on our national dailies, what's trending on social medias, and also bring you very engaging interviews to keep you up to date about events all around you. Well, you can watch us live on Star Times channel 190 on the DTT platform, and also through our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, Western Spring Television. Do same to follow our activities on Instagram and on Facebook at Western Spring Television, and on Twitter, that's at WSTV_NG. A lovely morning it is.
Yes, it is 11 days to Christmas, and of course, we're counting down. I'm sure that the average Nigerian is counting down, and everyone else is counting down. It's just that we hope that the government resolves every lingering issue that could make life difficult for members of the public, especially the fuel scarcity issue.
Well, as being now normal, I saw it again this morning. Maybe it's at reduced rate, but it says queues. I don't know if the popular filling stations. But your countdown, I mean, seems like, reminds me of the Christmas song, on the 9th day of Christmas. I have a feeling you'll get to that sometime soon.
Yes, of course, I will soon start
the way you've been counting down from the 14th day now, it's the 11th day to Christmas.
11th day, yes.
So
yes.
I just have a feeling that sort of one of these days you bust out into singing actually on set.
It will be interesting to see that happen. Okay, yeah. We have the papers for you this morning, but we'll take them right after this break.
All right, thank you so much. Let's begin with the Guardian newspapers. 2023, you'll be disappointed. INEC for once, PVC buying politicians. That's the banner headline on that newspaper, with a couple of riders caution supporters against the baseless conspiracy theories. Insist polls will be one genuine vote, one vote, one vote, no PVC, no voting. Rigging will be impossible in 2023 general election, says AIG. Committee on Election Security assures of credible polls in Kano. Some reassurance and reassurance again and again.
Well, it's important that the electoral body continues to assure Nigerians, because considering some of the back and forth between the commission and the political parties vis-a-vis attacks on the commission's facilities, also factoring in the fact that the military has come out to say that they are under pressure. A lot of persons need to hear this reassurance every day, so that they would continue to have faith in INEC's ability to carry out a free and fair election. And it's really nice that they are warning PVC buying politicians that they will be disappointed. I'm sure that INEC has learnt its lessons from past elections and will be putting its acts together to ensure that 2023 is a huge success. All
right, so bottom strip of the paper, Buhari 44 other leaders to extract deals as US-Africa Summit begins. That to be in the United States. And well, there's something interesting about that. George Oppongwe, the president of Liberia, who's been away in Qatar, if I'm not mistaken, since early November, watching his son, a place at the United States play. There are concerns and complaints in his home country that he's been away for 48 days at taxpayers' expense. So it appears that he has now left Qatar to go to the United States to join other African leaders at the US-Africa Summit in that country. So he's sort of an absentee president. Even the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, is just going to Qatar today or thereabouts. Yes. He's going to watch the semi-final game and then return to his country. Those are countries run like business. That's a business-minded president. Why do you abandon your country for almost 2 months because you want to go and watch your son that is not even playing for your own country?
Which is another issue on its own entirely. But it speaks to the fact that many of the African leaders are tourists. Some African countries, I think the president of Equatorial Guinea has also been away from his country. Paul Biya of Cameroon has also been away from his country. So a lot of African leaders do that a lot. And I think it's also because the electorates, the people, do not understand the power that they have. And of course, the legislature in these countries is not really strong, because I see no reason why you were elected to lead a country of about 10, 15, 40 million people, and you feel you can lead by proxy or you can lead from outside the country. It means that you're not in touch with the realities. You only get information, second-hand information.
So, I have no issues with Timothy Weah playing for the United States.
Yes, it's a different
the boy is old enough to decide, even if his father wants him to play for Liberia, might as well insist that he wants to play for US, and that would be his choice. But the idea of now staying for 30, 40, 48 days, that's unfortunate. The fact that you're a former footballer, you have a different job description now. You're the president of the country, so you abandon your primary duty, left for that place too. And after even the United States, are knocked out of the competition, you stayed back. Now you are from Qatar, she's now going to the United States, and it's the point. But it's good that some politicians back in his home country are also raising concerns and complaining about that. But just below the bottom, the nameplates of the Guardian newspaper at the top right-hand corner, why core investors management of Discos were sacked by FG, youth fair job loss, protest planned closure of Chevron logistics base at One. PDP apologizes to international community over Tinubu's Chatham House outing. Now, what do you use Panadol for?
I really don't know. Nigerian politics is just so interesting.
It's a cruise. And the final story on the Guardian newspaper, no political axe to grind with Atiku, says Wike. There seems to be a softening of rhetorics of late.
Yes.
I understand that Atiku also greeted Wike on his Twitter handle, wished him happy birthday. And so he's also following up. Well, I feel that a lot of water has passed under the bridge. Perhaps the point of no return has been crossed by either of the parties. It's too close. What do you think?
Well, I strongly agree. It's just a month and a few days to the elections. If you take out the 17 or thereabout days remaining in December. But like they say, 24 hours is a long time in politics. At the same time, we cannot underestimate the depth of some of these actions. If you look at the Osun State elections, for instance, we were told here that Ogbeni Aregbesola asked his supporters on the eve of the election to vote. That directive may have come, but the strife had eaten deep into the party, and at that time there were people who did not even want to listen to anyone. They just wanted to go with. So it's the same thing with the PDP. They've
it could
crossed
also
a lot
be
of lines.
Performative.
Yes, well, it could also be.
It could just performative instruction.
Let's not look like
understand.
Yes.
So.
A lot of lines have been crossed. Name calling. I really, if I were Iyorchia Ayu, I would personally find it difficult to relate with Wike. There are some things, like the allegations of building a university, the allegations of stealing 1 billion naira.
Those are personal on his kids.
Those are just, it's too much. It's too much.
Well, so that's that with the Guardian newspaper.
Well, let's move on to the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch newspaper, banner headlines similar to that of the Guardian newspaper. The Punch newspaper says 2023 INEC vows prosecution of voters card buyers and sellers. Commission insists on beavers to combat PVC fraud. Police working with INEC to track Riga's Force HQ. That's still talking about the 2023 elections. And below that story, you can see pictures. When I saw those pictures this morning, I initially thought it was pictures of people trying to get petrol, but you can see the explanation there, the caption: intending buyers at the public auctioning of forfeited vehicles by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Abuja on Tuesday. I can see a petrol tanker there. Is that also part of the forfeited goods?
Perhaps one of the forfeited goods. And I insist, Emmanuel, you need to find a way of being part of these auctioning crowds so that you get some things here. I don't know how cheap they are, but then I'm not impressed, you know, particularly at the way it's been conducted.
Yes, it's too rowdy.
Yeah, it's too rowdy here with what I'm seeing here. I feel perhaps a more organized event. I'm saying the hall.
People in the hall, yes. Put the items on display on screen. Yes,
you know, get to see. I mean, see how people are shouting here. It's somehow, you know, it's somehow, you know, people shouting. I wouldn't like to see Emmanuel in this kind of mode, but I know deep down him, Emmanuel would like to.
If you are paying for it, if you know if you're paying for it, it's fine. I'd like
if
to
I'm
get
paying for it,
one, like 2 tankers, 3 SUVs.
Why are you not buying cars? Why are you buying tankers?
I have plans for that.
Oh, okay.
I have plans for that. Well, away from the EFCC auctioning, it's the crowd. It's just a matter of time before.
So this was in Abuja. I think there was another one in Lagos.
Lagos and Ibadan, yes.
Yeah.
Well, away from that story now, Senate postpones hearing on cash withdrawal limits. Okay. Fake soldiers in court for terrorizing Lagos communities. That's on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. And we've been hearing reports of this, you know, people impersonating security operatives to carry out certain dastardly acts, and then people believing that these acts were carried out by the military. I think one happened recently in Kaduna also, and people were saying that soldiers came in to kill people and all of that. It could just be marauders, you know, wearing the uniform of soldiers. I thank God they are being arrested.
All right. So, I mean, the story about the Senate postponing the hearing on cash withdrawal limit, I guess that was because Senator Ubasani, who was the chairman of House Committee on Banking or something like that, was not around to present his report. So one of his committee members had to appeal to the Senate President and the colleagues to please postpone because Ubasani was in Kaduna for the APC zonal rally. And that as the governorship candidate of the APC in the state, they had to be there. So that was why this was stepped down. So we get to, and the Senate President or the committee members promised that they will revisit it in 24 hours. So expect that something will be done about it today.
All right, we expect to hear from the Senate and their decision. The National Assembly doesn't really seem to be in alliance or in agreement with the CBN on that policy. Okay, and talking sport, Majestic Messi secures Argentina World Cup final spot. As on page 31, could be just a fairy tale ride for Lionel Messi, as they've been saying, his last dance at the World Cup. Away from sport, mass rallies on local government autonomy to hold Tuesday, as on page 16 of the Punch newspaper. My life in danger, ex-Ekiti Speaker petitions IG. Page 18 is where you find that story. Nigeria leads in yam production, exports none. That's coming from the federal government.
So we eat all of the yam we produce?
Yes.
I mean, what happens or what exactly is the situation? If we are the leader in yam production, perhaps the domestic
consumption,
the domestic requirements or domestic demand is far higher. You know, yam is one of our staple foods.
Yes, it is. So second, I think second only to rice.
Yes. So if we are to export, that means we need to double production. You know, that we can produce. That's an area where we seem to have comparative advantage.
Yes.
We should also leverage on it. And you know, the story about Majestic Messi, you know, the paper had to bring the sports story to the front page because of the importance of Messi. And you said that's his last dance at the World Cup. And on social media yesterday, especially on Twitter, it was a battle of who is the real GOAT. You know, I detest that word. Really. So I know you guys
greatest of all time.
But then, how do you name someone a GOAT? You know, whatever the acronym is, whatever the real
we could change the pronunciation to Goat. the real Goat.
But yesterday, I feel Messi fans had a lot of time, you know, a lot of space to do banter above Cristiano Ronaldo fans. And if Messi ends up winning,
it will be worse. Terrible for Cristiano Ronaldo
fans should just exit the social media platform at least for a week or thereabout.
Yes. Now, the last story on the Punch newspaper, right beside the nameplate, reps direct NNPC to end petrol scarcity. On page 20, has been so much directives and threats and nothing to show for it.
Okay, so it appears it's easing, but I feel that the price won't go to what it was again. I mean, we are likely going to settle for something in the region of, 200 or what have you. It's easing gradually, but it's not like what Nigerians really would like to experience. I'm talking about the price. It's easing, it's easing. Where you find the queues are where it's being sold at control price. And it's even above the control price because they're selling at 180 naira. But it's easing, But like you said, directives and threats all not working.
Yes.
Nigerians are in a bind.
So that's all on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Let's go to the This Day newspaper now. The banner headline is about the internal wranglings in the PDP. Wike, I would have won PDP primary if it weren't manipulated. But the rider insists it doesn't have any rift with Atiku. Ex-VP Okowa, PDP governor, salutes Rivers governor at 55.
It is quite interesting. I mean, in one breath, he's saying that he has no political axe to grind with Atiku. In the next same breath, he is insinuating that Atiku manipulated his way.
That's the core of his issues.
Yes.
Well, for some, I don't know if to be fair to say, a bad loser. I wouldn't know, but I think it's politics.
Yes.
It was disappointed that Tambuwal steps down
betrayed,
but that's horse trading. It's politics. It can be very, very damning. It can be very, very troubling. It can be very, very. I'm lost for the right words now. How it can be treacherous.
Yes.
That's what it was. What I was looking for. But it's part of the game. So it wasn't comfortable because Tambuwal actually supported his aspiration at the last election.
And then
the primaries. But it happened, and it's evident that he has not moved on, and so that's why they had to raise the issue with Iyorchia Ayu. But this seems to be the main grouse that Wike has with Atiku Abubakar. But it's good that the other governors are also saluting him now, especially ex-VP Okowa. You remember the Nation with their funny headline yesterday about the drama at the Makurdi airport. I was wondering what they would have wanted it, but it would have been more drama if Wike and Okowa had met at the Makurdi airport.
And something had happened.
Something could have happened. Wike could have said something.
Trust Wike
who is the drama
to just walk past or say something.
Okay, so that's the one headline. Just above that and below the nameplate, Alake Onanuga's allegations about Igbena clears air, challenges them to present their candidate for debate.
Again, it's the back and forth. I was having a conversation with one of our colleagues yesterday. We were just talking about the stories, and he wanted to know why I had not brought it on my show yet. And I said that this is just the beginning. I don't want to do it as an episode.
Yeah.
Let's just wait to see how it unfolds.
It reached the crescendo.
Yes, and I did predict yesterday that Tuesday would respond to the nations, and then tomorrow the nation will respond. And then the back and forth.
But it's unfortunate that we should bring the news to the people. We are now we've not started to the level of being part of the news.
Yes.
I don't know if you get that.
Yes, we're now in the news.
We are now in the news. I mean, it's unfortunate, and journalists now taking sides, as it were. That appears that everybody in his corner, and then you're fighting for one guy. It shouldn't get to this level. And then some people are also saying, well, if it's happening like this, are you not worried for press freedom? Will people be stifling free speech and independent journalism and what have you? But let's get to see. So Alake Onanuga's allegations about Igbena is the owner, the chairman of DC and Arise Television, clears the air, challenges them to present the candidates for debate to the riders. Reiterates journalists not their opponents in 2023 election, insists resorts to blackmail, fake news, bullying won't work.
Yeah, I think that one of that first rider sums it up for many supporters of the APC's presidential candidate. To be fair, or to be clear, journalists are not the opponent of any political candidate. It is the job of a journalist to grill and drill you and ask you questions, because they are also affected. We are also affected. So if you think that because you are being asked questions and then this person is your opponent, then it doesn't really speak well of you as a candidate yourself, But at the same time, we must speak to journalists to remain professional. some persons allow their bias to shine through, especially during interviews and all of that. But at the same time, everyone should find a balance. You should know when to keep your biases out, you know, and learn to also accept, grow a thick skin as a candidate. You hear all sorts of things, you know. But Donald Trump is the prime example of all of this. He gets a lot of stick. Even comedy shows sometimes invite him. He comes and makes a mockery of himself too. You know, so that's maybe because that's how advanced their own democracy is.
For me, I feel for politicians, if you are not comfortable with the heat, you should not move close to the kitchen.
Exactly.
You know, so the moment you throw your heart into the race, into the ring, and then you're ready to be pillaged, you know, if that's the right word to use, in terms of criticism, interrogating your antecedents, or whatever.
And even physical violence, like Emmanuel Macron has been slapped twice,
a couple of times. I don't know, you know. Is there something with Emmanuel's and slaps?
He just loves slap. I really don't know. He's always getting slapped.
But it's also important for the journalists also to be above board.
Yes.
Not to allow the biases to seep through. You could have preference, but then it should not color your objectivity. It should not influence your engagement. And so it's unfortunately what this one has descended to. We do hope that they get a hang of it. I'm not really comfortable with this back and forth really between the two organizations. So above the nameplate, nuclear fusion scientists announce major limitless clean energy breakthrough, and U.S.-Africa summit. Buhari restates 30 gigawatts electricity target by 2030. With the riders, 6 financial technical assistance from U.S., Nigeria, Rwanda become first nations to sign Artemis Accords. United States to commit $55 billion to health, climate adaptation in Africa. 30 gigawatts by 2010. I think we just like rhymes. Yeah, we like rhymes. That's what I see this one. The last one, Obi in Kogi pledges to make Nigeria producing nation. Okay, and that's the last on the This Day newspaper today because of our time.
All right, very quickly, we would turn our attention to the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper this morning, the banner headline there says, banks get marching order to sell off Disco's shares. Government explains sack of core investors, targets to 22,000 megawatts. That's at the banner headline on that newspaper this morning. Below it, Tinubu promises to end banditry terrorism in Northwest. The story is on page 4. The bottom strip, CBN abuse Naira and go to jail. Obi promises to end stealing in government. And just below the nameplate of the Nation newspaper, some cheering news and at the same time sad news. Killers of Union-Laurent female students die by hanging. Court rules. That's justice served there. And above the nameplate, with IU in office, no deal with Wike, says article was on page 5. And how to end petrol crisis by reps on page 7. Agencies urged to partner. And here in Osun State, former Governor Itola is saying, I didn't hire 12,000 workers in Osun. That story is on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. And 14 persons, 22 cows die in road crash. That's on page 3 of the Nation newspaper.
Well, interesting headlines there. We will get to know someday what's the actual number of workers recruited by the former governor in the twilight of his administration. You know, the figures.
Hope to get to know.
We deserve to know. We should know. But the rest of the figures have now been colored by politics. So you actually do not know what exactly, or you know, how many workers actually. But we know that workers are recruited.
Well, I still don't understand why the Oyetola administration is not willing to give an actual figure. I mean, if someone is saying you stole their money, or someone is saying you carried 5 boxes of candy when you took just 2, I think you just for the sake of clearing your name,
I took just 2.
I took 2. I didn't take 5. You know, so I don't understand the hesitation from the Oyetola administration.
Well, so it's part of what we be, you know, continue running saga, sort of, you know, we until someone comes out and say this is the number of workers I employed and this number of workers we met. Okay, so that's the much we can talk about the papers today. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll take a break. When we return, our guests will join us via Zoom.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West. And Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
According to the words of Michael Forbes, one who never asks questions either knows everything or nothing. Watch me as I ask the questions you think no one wants to answer. Even questions it appears no one has got the guts to ask. My name is Femi Adefila and I've got the gut. Let's ask the pertinent questions and watch as we get answers.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
Evelyn Ohiole,
Hi.
King Eve. How are you today?
I'm good, I'm fine, I'm alive.
I really feel like she's not giving the right answer to the question. When one asks you, how are you? And you said, you're saying, I'm alive. It's very annoying, seriously. How are you? I'm fine. I feel I'm fine would be the right answer instead of I'm alive. Not that I asked you if you're dead before.
Go and check all these 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, everybody, they are extraordinarily sexually active.
I feel is being unnecessarily hyper when it comes to the issue of sex, because we talk about other topics and he feels so reserved. He really doesn't have anything much to say when it comes to other stuff. But when it's the issue of sex, I believe he's being unnecessarily hyper. That's when I have to pick an issue with him. I mean, it's just being unnecessarily there when we're talking about sex. Just like a child, his mom just got him his favorite chocolate or ice cream, very happy, doing as though if he doesn't have sex for a day, he's going to die.
When it comes to finance, women also support their husbands financially. You need me emotionally. You need me spiritually.
Cassie is an amazing person, but I hate the too much attachment to that gender. I need you spiritually, I need you mentally. I can get these things anywhere with money. If you go by the topic was, who does marriage favors the most? I know how many jobless women they marry every Saturday. They are saying it favors you, favor. Are they vex so?
Growing up, when I was in the world, we've heard of
Who are you now?
Well, MC Too Much said he likes saying when I was in the world, and the last time I checked, well, it looks a bit innocent facially, but deep down, is actually out of this world. We're all in the world now. As long as you're alive, you're in the world. So MC Too Much, I beg when you talk about that. I don't want to hear that. Next time you talk about I kiss my words.
I think they have a problem with you saying ladies are champion, and that's the problem. Always trying to attach so much importance to that gender.
It's giving insecurity, it's giving low self-esteem, it's giving a blatant display of egoism. Because at the end of the day, a man who is secured in his words, a man who is confident of who he is, will not really be disturbed as to whether women are being referred to as champions or not. I mean, at the end of the day, Joseph's a really great guy, but whether he likes it or not, women are champions.
Jáde mọ̀rìnwó la kọ́kọ́ rí ọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ ní síwájú ìjó ẹsẹ̀ katakata ní síwájú rìn bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń gbúrò wa a tún ti dé náà nù ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò Owambe Unlimited pẹ̀lú èmi ọmọ yín olólùfẹ́ yín ọ̀rẹ́ yín Suliat tẹ́túmọ̀ sí Morenikeji ẹ lè pè mí ní Susu tó bá wẹ̀ lómi a sọ pé ìyálòde àríyá gbogbo orúkọ tẹ́ ẹ bá pè mí kò sí èyí tí mi ò ní jẹ yín ẹ farabalẹ̀ kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. It's on to Morning Spring. It's coming to you from Western Spring Television. You can check us out on Star Times channel 190 on the DTT platform and also watch us live on YouTube at Western Spring Television. When you watch us there, do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Well, so we have our guest joining us live via Zoom this morning, the former Deputy Chief of Staff to former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola, Prince Abdullah Adeyanju Binuyo. He joins us live via Zoom this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Femi Adefila. Thank you for hosting me on this program.
Well, Femi Olanikwekun here. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Okay, so
right.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we've had, you know, a number of issues about, you know, the mining sector in Osun, following of the statement credited to the governor, where he said that for the past 25 years, the state has not earned a dime for all of the mining activities in the state. You know, and this is a state that hosts the largest mining company for Segilola in Nigeria, and some of the other activities here. Do you mind explaining why during the time of your own administration, with all of what was said to have been achieved, Osun never earned a dime from mining?
Well, thank you very much. It's actually very important to put all of these issues in a much clearer perspective. To start with, the history of solid minerals or mining in Osun dated back to the 40s, when it was early discovery of solid minerals, particularly gold in Osun. Dating back that time, and like we know, the mining itself is on the exclusive list of the federal government. It's actually entirely owned by the federal government. Osun is a host state for this very precious metal. And at the same time, during the time of Oyinlola, Governor Oyinlola, around 2006, he made a very, very excellent move of allowing the Osun State have a skin in the game by applying to the federal government to acquire mining licenses. Now, mining titles are divided into two. The first is the exploration licenses, which allows you to explore and find out whether it's actually commercially viable to farm into these assets. And the other kind of title is the mining lease, which is given after confirmation of the commercial viability for you to start mining. Okay? Governor Oyinlola actually acquired about 70 mineral titles, which spans across different states of the Federation. Osun State, we had about 3 mining licenses and 3 exploration licenses. We have quarry leases and exploration licenses in Kogi State, particularly for feldspar and some other materials. In Ebonyi, Osun State has about 2 exploration licenses for lead and zinc. In Zamfara, we have a mining exploration license actually for gold. Ditto, Niger State, as well as Kaduna State. So total about 17 exploration licenses. Now, the whole idea of exploration license is to be able to get risk-ready companies who are willing to throw in money to be able to explore, take through entire process of geological studies to be able to ascertain the amount of mineral that are embedded under the earth. Now, with that in mind, it is heavily kind of capital outlay that's required to get that done. I want to say and put it on record that the most audacious mineral resources program was embarked on by the government of Oyetola. Look at the entire process. In 2006 till 2018, 12 years on, before we're able to put together, first, a solid mineral development plan, 2, a mining policy for us to get onto it. Now, the first thing we did was to, part of getting through with the development plan, we embarked on the commercialization of the assets. Commercialization simply means look for partners that have the technical capacity and the financial war chest to be able to get on to digging into, exploring, to be able to ascertain what's in there. I want to put it on record today that the much talked about Segilola was actually originally owned by Tropical Mines. Tropical Mines willingly gave Osun 5% of its shareholding because they're the whole state, willingly. However, when Segilola came in a couple of years back, they bought in about 75% of this company, thereby diluting the shareholding of Osun to 1%. So what it means is Osun technically today owns 1% of Segilola. Now, Segilola has been through this business of exploration for the last at least 25 to 30 years. So exploration is the first thing to be done to ascertain what exactly is buried under the soil to see if it is actually worthy of commercial investment. Thereafter, they started production just last year. They developed the field, set up the processes and all of that. And I want to say that Segilola today has the best ESG protocol in Nigeria today as the only global mining company that is available in Nigeria as of today. Now, have we earned anything? Going back to your question, it's good to give you this background. Yes, we have earned, because the first thing we did was to set out a means by which we will be able to decipher as to whether all the partners we're trying to bring on board are worth it in terms of financial capacity and technical competence. We set a limit that this company should pay a certain amount of money for the signature bonus. We try to look at what happens in the oil and gas sector. Before you farm into any oil asset, you have to commit X amount of money to be certain that, yes, you have the capacity to go ahead. So the first thing first is you need to explore first. Now, confirm the commercial viability. At the end of the commercial viability, Osun will at that point know what they're worth in terms of the value of the asset. So what we've been able to recover to date is the signature bonuses that we made all these companies pay into the coffers of the Osun State government, which is on record how much we've been able to make. We've had about 5 companies pay by 100 million each before engaging to start the process of exploration, I'd say, not mining in Osun. So to date, we have been able to make some money in terms of the amount, in terms of revenue to Osun State government by way of signature bonuses. In terms of yield from the actual worth of the asset, as of today, the whole valuation of each of the assets is going to take several years. The mining process, which starts the exploration, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. If it took Segilola about 30 years before they're able to pick out an ounce of gold from under the earth, it tells you that it requires a lot more than we all think about. So has Osun benefited? Yes, tremendously, much more than it has under any administration in the history of Osun. Oyetola's administrations are able to stimulate the growth of the sector by his audacious growth plan in the solid mineral development plan that he did for Osun. Just after we came in 4 years ago, we did the economic summit, and that was the basis for laying the foundation for development of the sector. And through that, we had interested parties that registered interest. We had to go through a process of sifting through those who are really capable. And within that time, and now we've been able to sign partnerships, JV, with Badger Mines. Badger Mines is working about the where Segilola is, at the southern flank of where Segilola is. They've been on it for the last 2.5 years, invested millions of dollars still exploring. They've not started mining. In terms of mining, you have a few companies that come in on our on our leases to show interest in alluvial mining. And we realized that we cannot continue to do alluvial mining because of very bad mining practices and associated issues around it.
Sorry, just to untangle these, take one after the other. So just some clarifications. Is Segilola mining at the moment?
Segilola started mining just about a year, just over a year ago.
Okay, so what about Badger Mines? Is Badger Mines also mining now, or they're still doing exploration?
Badger Mines started exploration about 2 years ago, and I think it's going to take a few more years before they finish the process.
All right, so when you said that the state made 100 million from signature bonuses from about 5 companies, was this $100 million or 100 million naira? And can you tell us about those 5 companies? Was Segilola part of the 5 companies?
Segilola, we couldn't have charged Segilola 100 million naira. Sorry, it's naira, not dollars.
Okay.
Because Segilola has been operating in Osun way 20, 25 years ago, for which Segilola entirely owned the asset. It does not belong to Osun at all. The little clarification or education I'll give on this is, if Rave TV today decide to go into mining, all they need to do is to make applications to the federal government, show requisite capacity for mining, and have the capacity to undertake exploration. The federal government will indeed give Rave FM, Rave TV, an exploration license for them to continue. Now, what Segilola did was they applied several years back, even before the creation of the Solid Mineral Department, when mining was still a part of Ministry of Petroleum Resources in Jos, way back then. That's when they started. So it took them upwards about 30 years before they are able to ascertain what is lying beneath the earth to set up the mining process that they have today. So we did not charge Segilola because Segilola owns its own asset.
Okay.
We only charged on parties that partner with Osun on his exploration licenses only.
And so all of the 5 paid 100 million naira, or each paid 100 million naira each?
Each of them paid 100 million naira.
Okay, so I mean, just before my colleague comes in, what the governor said was that Segilola and other operating companies are expected by law to pay Osun State 13% derivation on the value of gold and other solid minerals produced in the last 25 years. And they said till date, we have no record of any payments made by Segilola and other mining companies to Osun State?
Let me give a little clarification on that. The payment is a constitutional matter that has nothing to do with our own state, our time in government. As you have with oil sector and recently non-oil sector, when the federal government of Nigeria, way back the time of Goodluck, worked out through this revenue mobilization allocation and fiscal commission as to how much the producing states will be earning. Now, if you have solid minerals like gold, like barites, like all the minerals, the maximum payout in terms of royalty to the federal government is 3% for gold. Now, these 3% paid by the companies that are mining in the state. The federal government takes 87% of this value, and the remaining 30% is calculated and sorted out from the federal allocation back to the state government. Now, this is purely a Ministry of Finance issue, has nothing to do with the state government, because monitoring activities of mining is the exclusive preserve of the federal government. They own it, and they do the monitoring, just like you have oil and gas in the South. If a Shell or a Mobil is producing in your state, though the responsible entity for them is NNPC, because that is where they have their partnership, and NNPC on its own will calculate what is meant for the federal account and they pay directly to the allocation. So similar thing exists in this sector as well as with every other solid mineral sector.
All right, thank you, Prince Binuya, for joining us on Western Spring Television. I'd like to take you up on some of the things you said. You did talk about 100 million naira in 5 places. Now, the PDP is claiming that they do not have any records of such payments. Were those payments documented during your administration and even before?
Payments documented, and they were paid into the accounts of the state government. These will be provided to them.
All right.
If they do not. Yes.
Could you come again? Your line is breaking.
I said the payments were clearly made and receipted to the account of the state government.
All right. Now, according to what the chairman of your party, the APC, Soko Tajuddin Lawal, said, Segilola, I'm quoting him now, Segilola Company only began commercial operation in the state last year. The company is on a 3-year tax holiday. The implication is that the company, during the administration of Gboyega Oyetola, did not pay any royalty to the federal government, that Osun State would have laid claim to any 13% derivation. End of quote.
This, the issue of paying tax to the federal government or paying royalty to the federal government is not the decision of the state government. Let me start it again. Just like I said and made an example of Shell or Mobil operating in the South, it is not the duty of Akwa Ibom state government or Rivers state government to check or to force them, so to speak, in paying X amount of royalty to the federal. They have an accounting system that allows them automatically remit to federation account. I do know very clearly that the Ministry of Solid Minerals, Mines and Steel Development have a very, very clear accounting process. We should note this. Segilola is the flagship company when it comes to solid mineral mining in Nigeria. The federal government supported Segilola extensively to be able to at least prove a point during the administration of both Buhari and Governor Oyetola. Governor Oyetola gave extensive support for this company to start off working because of the multiplier effects it is currently having on the economy of Osun. And I'll explain a few to you. During the COVID period, even during the lockdown period, around the time we had the COVID, the only company that the government of Oyetola gave us the exclusive right to continue developing their asset is Segilola, simply because of the interest shown by the federal government in ensuring that we kick off the only world-class mining company. And if it is residents in Osun, the only thing a responsible leader will do, as Governor Itola did, was to support them. The licenses, permits, and waivers that were given to them to enable them start off. You know that since 1940 or 1950, if the first gold was officially mined out of Osun in 2021, it tells you that it needs a lot of support from the host community, from the host government, and from the federal government for them to be able to start. This was what we were able to do to ensure that Segilola was able to start. They met all the COVID protocols, all the mining standards in terms of environmental, social governance protocol attached to mining industry today. The kind of services, the kind of facilities put in place by Segilola is actually world class. It's important to know that Segilola's main investor is under an SPV called the Thor Exploration, which is a Canadian, quoted on Canadian Stock Exchange. So they are regulated internationally in terms of best mining practices. So it is rather laughable when we heard or we read the comment that Segilola will be put to scrutiny as to how they polluted the river and a lot of things like that. I mean, I want to say very clearly that we're happy and proud that we have Osun produce Segilola as a representative in the world in terms of best mining practices. It can be checked and rechecked. And I want to say that when PDV eventually do the fact check, they will come back to say, sorry, they made a goof on Segilola.
Well, so the 3-year tax holiday, was it granted by the state government or the federal government?
The federal government.
Okay, so that means as of now, Osun has not received any 13% derivation from the federal government from any of the mining companies here in Osun?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. And I know the process is on, but at the moment, during our time as government, there was no such payment into the account of the state government.
Is it only the signature bonus that Osun has been able to get, aside the other multiplier effect in terms of employment, in terms of perhaps some community development of Segilola, you know, in the Odo and Ikpirindo axis of the state? Aside those, is it only the signature bonuses that the state government was able to get during your administration from the mining activities in the state?
Well, to start with, Segilola approached us and made very clearly to us the shareholder we have in the company. And as at the time we left, we left government, we are yet to reconcile what is due to Osun after a year of activities of Segilola. I believe that's in process. Segilola is a quoted company. All the processes are documented, and I'm certain that Segilola, when probably reached out to, I believe they have an accounting process that will put on the table what belongs to Osun. Over and above that, signature bonuses were paid in by the interested mining partners. And when we started, we tried to toy with the issue of alluvial mining. We have 3 assets, which is the MLs that we're allowed to mine on it. We partnered with a few mining companies to try alluvial mining. But we stopped it after a while when we saw that the practices were not in line with international best practices in terms of environmental impact and a host of other things. We had a few amount of gold which is stocked with the state government right now that were put back into the system that were earned. Let me say that. But then we had to stop that process because we need to give rise to real companies, big companies that have the financial capacity and technical capacity to be able to do proper exploration. I'll explain this to you. We have ELs, 3 ELs, and we have about 3 MLs. Now, before you can go ahead and even start mining, you must have data. The data tells you where worth is, and at the same time gives you the commercial valuation of this asset. None of these were given to Osun as at the time Osun acquired those assets. So we realized the only step we need to take is to go commercial by developing this asset, acquire data, then Osun at that point can know what they're worth. I'll give you an example. As at the time Segilola started, it was an incremental discovery that they had. At some point, they had 100,000 ounces. It increased to 200, increased to about 300 over time. So each of the time they were increasing the amount of discoveries that they had, then it gives them the confidence to wanting to go beyond exploration and setting up a means where they can actually directly mine. As of today, Segilola is still exploring, trying to conquer new grounds to be able to ascertain opportunities around the mining assets that they currently have. So in terms of earning, we earned from the signature bonuses, and we earn as well, which is, we earned some grams of gold, which is currently saved with the state government.
Well, so, you know, the 17 licenses of the state, you might explain to us, are they all exploration licenses or some of them are also mining licenses?
There are only 3 mining licenses. They're here with us in Osun. Every other license that we have across the entire federation, thanks to the Olagunseyilola government, are all exploration licenses.
Okay, so because the governor also sort of insinuated that the licenses, he said all state mining licenses already diverted to private possession must be fully recovered. It seemed to be insinuating that the licenses have now been diverted to private possession.
Well, there's no way you can divert, let me use that very strong word that was used, into private possession. There's no such thing. It's on record that most of the companies that showed interest during the economic summit, that we had to look through their capacity, Osun decided to partner with them. We partner with them to develop with the clear intent of developing those assets for the exploration part. So there's no such thing as diversion. MOU was duly executed with these companies, and work has since started since after they signed the MOU. So no such thing as diversion. All of the assets of Osun are there intact where they are. In Ebonyi, they're intact. In Kogi, it's intact. In Kaduna, is intact. In Zamfara, is intact. And of course, in Niger State, around the Shiroro and Rafi area, local government area, they're intact. So the whole assertion that they are diverted, it's just a political statement.
Well, so just before we let you go, aside the big players like Segilola and Badger Mines, there are a number of mid-level players also who, I do not know if artisanal is what to describe them, but all of those Chinese miners who came into the state, did the state government make anything of them?
Okay, let me explain a bit of this. First, Osun is a host state to mining activities, solid mineral basically. I want to say very clearly that in Osun we have over 100 mining titles, and only 6 belongs to the state government. We have over 100 valid legal mining titles for it, only 6 belongs to the state government. So all of the activities of the other miners, let me now talk about legal ones now, they will report to the federal government as to what they're able to mine, because what we have in Osun, 3 MLs belong to the state government. We have ML41 that belongs to Segilola and other MLs that they've acquired. Others that we have are called SSMLs, that is small-scale mining leases. This small-scale mining leases support to allow the alluvial miners to continue their mining processes. Now, Osun is not responsible for them. Osun is responsible as a host community to ensure that they do not, number one, mess up the environment. That is why we set up MIREMCO, the regulation committee, to ensure that every mining process that does not go along the standard mining practices, it is shut down. It is shut down with the active support of the federal government to ensure that our people are safe. Now, it's important also for me to mention very quickly that in the process of mining, there's only 4 years that we have stayed in government yet as of this moment. Out of the over 16-year, since 2006 to date, is the number of years we've acquired this license. I must say again that the licenses are not perpetually ours. The licenses are termed on a 7-year rotation basis. We've been able to do, as at the time we came into government, it will interest you to note that almost all of our mining, almost all of our mineral title had expired as at that time. Expiration means that Osun does not have access to those assets anymore. Because what an EL means is you must explore this asset within a 7-year term. After 7 years, if you're not done anything, it reverts back to the federal government. It's a use or lose option that the federal government gave to us. So we have only one choice as a responsible government to find a means to which we can get this asset active. And even as at the time we came in, they were technically expired. We had to use the force majeure clause of the agreement with the federal government, using COVID as an excuse to extend the life cycle of this mining, of this exploration license to allow our investors come in such that Osun will not lose. In terms of activities around mining, I want to say very, very clearly, the 4-year spent by Governor Oyetola had the best activity and the most audacious plan for this sector. I will say to you again that most of the things underreported around mining is such that the first ever gold refining facility in Nigeria is today in Osun. This was achieved by the last administration. Badger Mines partnered with Osun, and the Osu facility that we have, they are fully renovated, converted it into a refinery, which means every gold produced in Osun can be refined in Osun to the world standard and can be part of international gold bullion. I mean, okay, so these are the activities.
Because of our time, yeah, so I just want to clarify, the Chinese miners, were we able to get anything from them as a state? I understand that you said most of them get their license from federal government and they report to federal government, but as a state, were we able to get anything from them? And then did we not fail in holding them to the highest standard in terms of maintaining our environment? Because if you move over all of those areas, the glacier exists, you see a lot of pits dug, a lot of stagnant water, pits that were not refilled. So did we make money off them as a state? And then were they held to the highest standard? Did we not fail in that regard?
We didn't make money off any company that we do not partner with to start with. In terms of environmental degradation that carried out by them, we actually arrested quite a lot of them and we forced them to remediate. The essence of Miremco, let me explain to you, is to ensure, Miremco is a formation of the federal government in partnership with the state government. The essence is to ensure that safe mining practices are carried out. And for all erring companies, they are actually either forced to stop, arrested, and forced to remediate all of the activities. Don't forget that Nestria is a federal government agency that is made by law to look after all these processes in question. The state government, under the leadership of Oyetola, actually interferes with Nestria severally. We had to point out locations where very bad mining practices are happening, locations where they're actually washing off heavy metals into the river to them, and they actually shut down a lot of sites. What I need to say to you today is, and to the Osun people today, is the process of mining requires continuous enforcement, which is what we're able to do. Don't forget also that we're able to set up JTF, which is the arm of the security unit guarding and supporting the miners around the entire axis to ensure that we have a safe mining environment. So in terms of all of the things that happened, Miremco was there to ensure safe mining practices are carried out, and Nestria was there to ensure that so many sites are shut down. Wow. And for illegal mining, let me quickly say that it's on record that we were the first to arrest a lot of illegal miners, and we paraded them on TV to show the world the effort of the last government in tidying up the mining space. Oh. So the entire mineral development plan, I would advise that the new government look at it and see the entire effort that was made to ensure that we take this mining to another level.
Prince Abdullah Adeyan Jubinu, your former Deputy Chief of Staff to former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola, we appreciate you joining us on Morning Spring this morning on Western Spring Television.
thank you very much, and thank you for taking me on.
Thank you very much. All right, so that's one leg of the conversation. We'll take the short break. When we return, we'll be bringing in our other guests on this same issue.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West. And Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Evelyn Ohiole,
Hi.
King Eve. How are you today?
I'm good, I'm fine, I'm alive.
I really feel like she's not giving the right answer to the question. When one asks you, how are you? And you said, you're saying, I'm alive. It's very annoying, seriously. How are you? I'm fine.
All right, welcome back. Morning Spring is still the program on Western Spring Television, and we'll be bringing you interesting conversations and some of the back and forth between the government of the day in Osun State and the past administration over mining activities and royalties and payments to be made. We're now joined live in the studio by our second guest for the second leg of the interview. He's the Executive Director of Benalat, a non-governmental organization in Osun, at the forefront of trending the Save Osun River hashtag, and of course, is an environmental activist. Thank you very much for joining us, Anthony Adejuwon.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you are in the thick of the matter, the thick of the issue currently causing problems between the APC and the PDP on mining activities in the state as regards derivation and of course all of the other issues. What is your assessment currently of what both sides have put on the table?
Well, thank you so much. Let me quickly salute the courage of the new governor who has, seen it through to come out and say something on solid minerals within the state. For years, operations within the solid mineral sector in the state seems to be in secrecy. And that means, yes, people are doing it, but no one really knows what is happening. And for me, when the governor says it's time for him to set up a committee to see into it, yes, we don't know the terms of reference of the committee. But I think that is a laudable step by the governor, and it is actually commendable. But when it comes to the facts and figures, I have read the speech of the governor when he was, bringing on board the committee. I think there are so many other things the government of the state needs to really understand when it comes to mining. The mining industry and even mining in Osun, the true picture seems not to be so clear to the current government. And that is just the fact. One, the money the governor talked about that the mining company isn't paying to the state government, it is not, it shouldn't be so. The mining companies are not expected to pay directly to the state government. They are to pay to the landlord. In fact, with mining being on the exclusive list, the federal government is the landlord and every other person is a tenant. Yes, there are mining companies operating in the state, and in fact, the state government itself is also a tenant to the federal government. So they are expected to pay to the federal government just the same way we have in the oil industry. Then the federal government pays the 13% to the state. I think the noise should be, better directed to the federal government in terms of the money the governor talked about. Other issues of environmental degradation is huge, and for more than 2 years, we've actually been advocating regarding the pollution of the major water bodies in the state, land degradation, social vices, inequality, corruption, and in fact, insecurity in some places within the state. And I'm so glad that the new governor has seen a reason to handle that. However, speeches and orders are not enough. Don't forget that March this year, the ex-governor of the state, former governor Gboyega Oyetola, had the same order. He banned illegal mining in Osun State. And to a reasonable extent, nothing happened. The miners still worked. They kept polluting the waters. They kept, putting pains on the people, and nothing really changed. So it's much more than just a speech. We want to see action from the government. And this time, the new governor needs to be sincere to himself. To himself, he needs to be so sincere and be intentional about taking steps to resolving all these within the state. For me, the speech talking about the fund, that is one. The speech about environmental degradation and water contamination, that is two. I still believe that rather than the government seeing the outsiders, the government needs to talk to itself, because from the data available from MCO, Mineral Cadastral Office, Mining Cadastral Office, it shows that 64% of the licensed area within Osun State is licensed to the state government through its business venture, Omoluabi Mineral Promotion Company. So if the state government itself can be open to itself by ensuring that the licenses the leases he has is well managed, then it's not going to be difficult for the state government to hold other people accountable. But as I speak, the state government itself isn't accountable to itself. So it's extremely difficult for me as an environmental activist, as a social accountability advocate, to say that the government should begin to talk about outsider. You need to talk to yourself first before you can talk to the outsiders.
Well, we've just heard the former Deputy Chief of Staff to former Governor Gboyega Oyetola try to shed light on some of these issues, and he did mention that the state government has not gotten any 13% derivation, and what the state government has gotten is signature bonuses from 5 companies, 100 million naira each. Now, do you agree with that? He seems to have brought some indisputable figures and all of that. But now, and he also mentioned that Segilola reiterated is on a tax holiday, 3-year tax holiday, and so there is no way the state government has made money off the company.
See, the fact still remains that mining is quote and unquote alien to Osun State. We used to have pockets of mining activities, artisanal miners working with light equipment, shovels and head pans within the state. In recent times, we've begun to see heavy equipment within the state being used by miners. So it could be very difficult for the government of the state to have a viable structure for revenue. However, I still feel that there are so many paths through which the state governments can ensure that these mining companies are responsible to the people, maybe not directly to the government. Yes. For instance, the governor talked about Segilola in Odo Ijesha in Ikpirindo. Don't forget that a few years ago, former Governor Aregbesola, through the local government, tarred the road from Ilesha to Ikpirindo. Now, go to that community now and check the road. Because of the advent of Segilola, the road is now terribly bad. Now, these are ways in which the state government can make Segilola accountable. There are infrastructures provided by the government. But because of the advent of this company, the people who used to enjoy these infrastructures are now suffering. So how can you help, not even help, how can you restore what you've affected negatively? This should be the conversation. Another thing is, yes, the state government is responsible for the health of the people, responsible, yes, for water supply and the rest. But looking at the CDA, Community Development Agreement, between the host communities and these mining companies, do they have things that naturally is the responsibility of the government? Do we have all those things that these mining companies can now begin to provide for the people? Okay, are you going to build a clinic for the people? Are you going to, begin to repair roads that you've actually destroyed? Yes, you have a dam you're using within your facility. Can you now use that same dam to supply potable water to the host communities? These are the conversations that I feel, yes, the government may be having payee or whatever as tax from the company if there is no tax holiday. But I think these are other angles that the state government needs to visit. See, I used to tell people, the government, especially the state government, cannot handle the mining companies alone. Because by law, the state government has been crippled when it comes to mining. Even if the state government do not have the license, the state government has been crippled by that law, Mining Act of 2007. Now, the only thing the state government can do is to activate local communities, activate the host communities, let them know their rights, let them know that there should be a community development agreement where they are going to sit on the same table with the miners and say, see guys, this is what we want within this time frame. See, in Syria alone, 1% of the profit of the mining company goes to the host community, 1%. So if by record, Segilola had made 25 billion naira in just 1 quarter, and by straight calculation, that shows Segilola could make 100 billion naira in a space of 1 year.
I'm just hypothetical.
Hypothetical. Now, that shows the host community in Sierra Leone have access to 1 billion naira. So imagine if you have a host community that is well equipped to bargain better with the company from inception.
So, I mean, the Sierra Leone example you're painting, it's part of their own laws.
Yes, it's part of their whole law. However, the host community is also empowered to dialogue in Nigeria, to dialogue with the host, with the mining companies to say, this is what we need from you.
So you advocate that we have a tweaking of our mining laws in Nigeria?
Definitely. Not even just about the CDA. Look at the compensations being paid. We've gone to so many mining communities, and what people say is, these guys are killing us. A tree of cocoa, you pay 500 naira.
For one tree of
cocoa? For one tree of cocoa.
Is that what is in the law?
Yeah, well, they said that is what is in the law. However, there are so many other things to talk about. We're in a community where more than 25 acres of land has been completely destroyed. In fact, the whole community has been displaced in this state.
Was there compensation paid to the people?
No compensation to the people.
Is this by the big companies like Segilola or by the Chinese companies?
Now, there are issues. Let's leave Segilola aside. In Osun State, as we speak, there are two types of miners. We have the artisanal miners, we have the coal miners, the Segilola, the big players. Now, coming down to the artisanal miners, there are two types of artisanal miners. There are subsistence artisanal miners. These are the young guys, making use of light equipment, head pans, shovels, and the rest. And we also have the mechanized artisanal miners, those ones using heavy equipment. And predominantly, these mechanized artisanal miners are Chinese nationals. Now, these are the guys that are really causing havoc when it comes to environmental degradation and water pollution within the state. And how do they find their way into the state? Yes, the former Deputy Chief of Staff also said it. The state government has 6 licenses, 3 mining licenses and 3 exploration licenses within the state alone. We still have outside the state. Now, we should ask ourselves, how are we faring with these licenses? Are people mining within the licensed area? ML7, which belongs to the Osun State government through the Omoluabi Mineral Promotions Company, covers around Itagumodi. But that is the art, aside Ikwendo, that is the art of gold mining, gold deposits in the state. But people are mining there as we speak.
And it's owned by the state government.
It is owned by the state government. People are mining.
So there is no proper oversight on the licenses owned by the state government.
Exactly.
So people are taking advantage of the licenses of the state government.
Exactly. To do it. So the question we need to ask ourselves, who are the people doing this? In fact, within many of these licensed areas, they've built hubs. Yes, you see them. You don't even need to go there physically. Just make use of technology. Just a little bit of satellite imagery will tell you what is going on in this community.
Do you know if those people mining in those mining leases of the state government or the exploration areas of the state government, if they pay back to the state government? Because I asked the Deputy Chief of Staff and he said, well, except for the ones that they have a technical agreement with, where they got signature bonuses or whatever. Are you aware, like the mining license 7, the ML7 you talked about the other time, where you say there's a lot of activity going on there. Are you aware if there's something going back to the coffers of the state?
That is the question. That shows the former government cannot tell us something has been coming in. That shows people working within these licensed areas are just making their money.
Illegally?
I can't say illegally because the government is not coming out to say it is illegal.
Or is it possible for the cadastral office in Abuja to allocate that portion to, some of those guys?
It is practically impossible. It's very simple. You've bought a piece of land. You own that land for that time. Maybe you have a C of O. That's 99 years. You have the right over that land. It is now the responsibility of the owner, you, to take possession of that land. So if anything happens within the confine of that land, we have to take you responsible for that. So someone actually had to relocate within into your own space and doing his own business. And you're shouting elsewhere, saying someone didn't give you load.
So these Chinese people, I mean, in some of your statements in time past have accused them of being responsible for the, biggest part of the environmental degradation we're witnessing, even down to the contamination of the Ocean River.
Yes.
Do they come in on their own, or do they have local collaborators?
See, the mining industry throughout the world is covered with secrecy. This is how people work. In fact, Chinese nationals are well known for this, going to Sierra Leone, to Ghana, to Kenya, to Rwanda. This is how they work. They work in collaboration with, wicked leaders within our societies. They liaise with them, give them money, give them many things so that they can have their way. No Chinese, no foreigner knows our terrain if he doesn't have the collaborative effort of the locals. When I say locals, it doesn't mean those that live in that community. It could be the traditional rulers, it could be political leaders and the rest. So, they have to follow a path into the state. And don't forget, like I said, I said a while ago that what we are currently seeing in the state is just the tip of the iceberg. Because data available shows that the number of mining licenses, ML, SSML, EHL, ML is mining license, SSML, small scale mining license, EHL is exploration lease. Mining lease exploration license. The number increased between 2020 and 2022 by more than 100%. The number of licenses issued within Osun State.
Issued by the Osun State government or by the federal government?
No, issued by the federal government. It's only the federal government that has the constitutional rights to issue licenses. Now, that shows we are just starting. So imagine the number of people that had their licenses and didn't work for years. Now imagine the increase in the number of licenses we now have. Imagine when they start to work. Imagine what will be of the state. I tell you, there are so many local communities right now that have not been explored, but the licenses have been given. One day, these license holders will come. But I tell you, there are so many things wrong within the mining industry, within the state, and even outside the state. Let me give you an example. The process of securing a license demands that the host community gives consent to any prospective miner. But it's so funny that we now have fake consent. Even some traditional leaders don't know that their communities have been consented out to miners. And it's so funny that if you want to mine, you can't be a poor person. You need to hold bar. And it's so easy for you to get security operatives to protect you. So once you bombard the rural communities with policemen, with army officers, it's quite easy for this community to become timid and scared. And you take over the community. And that is just a fact, and that is what is currently happening in the state. Just 2 days ago, the cable newspaper published a documentary. This is the reality of what really happened, and in fact, what is currently happening within the state. Even police officers are protecting the miners that are devastating the land against officials of the government. So you could see that these miners are not small people. And it's quite very difficult for you, Emmanuel, to have connection with a Chinese nationals if you don't have the money. So these Chinese nationals come into the state, do their own thing, legally or illegally. Because, I often ask myself, you can't say you're working legally and you are polluting waters. Because it's right inside the law that you can't have this license and do this. You can't have this license and pollute water bodies.
So who should be held responsible? Because you said that in March early this year, the then former governor issued, a stop mining order, but he said it was practically not complied with. Now, the new governor also issued another order. How do we give bite to such orders? How do we ensure that such orders are implemented? And also, I'm aware, and the DCO has also talked about the fact that they had Mirem code that was also meant to enforce, and they made a number of arrests and stopped some work. But so if the governors are giving orders, both the former and the current, and it's not working, what do you think from what you've seen in that sector that will make it work?
The mining sector is a very complex sector. Any state government that is really ready to work needs to invest in knowledge. The first thing is the Constitution has practically crippled the state. Now you look for loopholes to ensure that you protect your people. The responsibility when it comes to mining is not on the table, it's not directly on the table of the state governor. It's on the table of the Federal Minister of Mines and Steel Development. Now, there are other areas in which the state government can strategically position themselves. Water is not under the purview of the federal government. Yes. Even local security. We've been seeing so many things when it comes to security in Nigeria. So the responsibility of the state government is to ensure that they stay with the people. How can you activate the local communities to take up their rights and ensure that the right thing is done? Mirepco wasn't just set up. Last year, April, that the committee was set up, it was a reaction to a social media campaign, #Osun River Pollution. So it's not that the former governor wholeheartedly set up that committee. It was as a result of pressure from the people. So yes, the committee was set up, but look at the terms of reference of the committee. The committee is only an advisory committee to the Minister for Mines and Steel Development. So if there's a committee in Osun State advising someone in Abuja, imagine the chain of order from Osun to Abuja and back. Now, do we also have the security operatives, the empowered task force that will help this committee work? They don't have. And it is practically impossible for the committee to deliver. So for me, what the state government can do is this. Activate the local communities. Let them know their rights. Tell them, guys, you have this solid mineral. You need to protect your land. You need to protect your water. Tell them that they have the capacity to even develop their own communities directly through the miners. You need light. Have a lovely CDA, Community Development Agreement. Tell them within this period of time they need to do this. They must sign the agreement. You have a copy, they have a copy. The Federal Ministry of Mines have that copy. That is one.
These agreements, are these agreements with the big players like Segilola and Baja Mines, or even with those Chinese miners?
Even with the explorers. Those with exploration
do the explorers
license
make money? Because that's part of the question now. I've had arguments that during the level of exploration, that they're just exploring for gold, and that it's only when they transit to mining that they begin to make money, and that's when they're expected to now remit money and pay royalties.
Now, it's very easy for us to use terminologies. Exploration doesn't call for heavy equipment. Just do pockets of ore digging, get your sample. What they need during exploration stage is to take samples.
Are you talking about the big players now, or the
exploration license?
Okay, because I mean, what the Deputy Chief of Staff said the other time was that Segilola did exploration for almost 20-something years, and that they just started mining last year.
Now,
so they've pumped him. He said it's just like also oil companies who also do exploration for a lot of time before they now begin to do.
Now, the reason for exploration is for you to pick samples, go for analysis. The analysis will tell you that this place that you've picked this sample, there's possibility of this quantity over there. You can do a wider analysis to be exact. Now, you don't use that data to look for investors. This is what Segilola did over those years. But this is not what these are miners are doing right now.
You mean the Chinese miners?
Well, I can't call them Chinese because it's even You have to, do a lot of work to be able to connect the Chinese.
Mechanized artisanal mining.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, this is not what they are doing. They feel once they have the EL, they can go all out, bring in excavators.
So those mechanized artisanal miners working on ELs are not really doing exploration.
They are not
mining.
They are doing SSML, small scale mining. That is what they are doing. Now, even within, I've been mentioning this, even within the licensed areas of the state government, moving from Ifewara to all other rural communities behind Ifewara, linking, behind Ife, Kajola area, where the state government had licenses, people are working there. Yes.
So there's a lot of work for the new government.
A lot of work. Like I said in my introductory speech, the new governor needs to be sincere to himself. Because there are so many people making money out of this situation. So if he is really willing to help the people, he needs to be sincere to himself. And those surrounding him should also be sincere to the people. It's quite easy for individuals to make money out of this situation. They don't want structure so that they can continue to make money. In fact, so many people have also said that, oh, maybe the governor has also come to also make his own money. So he needs to be sincere to himself, sincere to the people, and also get the right team to work for him within this time.
Mr. Adejuwon, so practically now, to stop those mining illegally on the state's mining leases or the state's ELs, from what you've seen, do you think the governor alone has the powers to stop them?
Now, this is it. And thank goodness that we have Amotekun. You have a land. You have documents to show that the land belongs to you for a period of time. And you have your own security unit. Then you take possession of your land. It's as simple as that. Take possession of your licensed area. Go into your own exploration. Do the same thing Segilola did. Pick samples, run analysis, get investors to come on board. And that is how it is done. If you can't run it that way, have a company, sell shares, let people buy. Segilola is not a one-man thing. It's not. People bought shares. They trade on the Canadian Stock Exchange. You can also do it. In fact, it's so funny that even within just the ML7, document shows that the deposit there is even more than where Segilola is, ML41 or so, 14 or 41. So that shows the state government is only running after rats when he's sitting on an elephant. The state governor needs to see this and ensure that he gets the right people to do this. See, the mining industry throughout Africa is covered with so many funny things. It's only a leader that is ready to work for the people that can do anything reasonable for the people.
All right, so we'll leave it at that because of our time. But I'm sure it's an ongoing concern, Emmanuel. We'll have to revisit again and again because there will be many other talking points. We expect to get more responses from all of the stakeholders involved. But it's a pleasure having you on Morning Spring this morning, Mr. Anthony Adejuwon, Executive Director of Urban Alert and environmental activist. What's up? Emmanuel, that'll be the show, unfortunately.
Yeah, that will be the show, yes. We'll meet tomorrow on Spring Trends.
So, I mean, tomorrow morning we'll be able to do that.
Yes, of
I'm sorry
course.
about that.
Oh, no, I forgive you.
Oh, thank you. All right. So we go this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of our world. On Morning Spring, Emmanuel will be back tomorrow with Spring Trends. I apologize for not bringing that to you today, but thank you. Thank you so much for staying with us all through the day. Femi Olanipeku is my name.
I'm Emmanuel Ojadigele. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Not that I asked you if you're dead before.
Go and check all these 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, everybody, they are